Weekly keys to the game here. Texas Tech Red Raider lead up for the West Virginia Mountaineers. And first key point from me is, how did the Mountaineers come back after an emotional game in the Backyard Brawl that meant so much to the fan base? ABC was prime time. You had the nation watching.
Yeah.
In a game that hadn't been played on Mountaineer Field for 11 years. So how do they rebound off of an emotional high, a big win, 11 points, and potentially having the backup quarterback in all likelihood? So I think it's a key factor, and we all know that these are 18, 19, 20-year-old kids that at times we see it every week in college football. How does the team get up for the next opponent? And that is, it couldn't be a bigger factor in this game for me.
I agree, Jarrett. I mean, I think that's a good one. And I think the one good thing is you have the start of conference play, right? Now the kids were super pumped up. The fan base was pumped up about last week's game. But the good thing is about this game, it's a conference game and it's a team that's whipped your butts for 4 years in a row, including last year, which is one of the most embarrassing losses I've seen a West Virginia team take in a long time. It was 48 points for Tech. They went up and down the field. Neil Brown, after the game and in the following week in press conferences, was questioning the team's effort during that game. And so hopefully, although it didn't work for the prior three years, but hopefully that, that sting of the loss last year and then 3 years in a row will have us ready to go to try not to have that hangover. But it's a good point. My key, and I'll tie it back to the Pitt game too, in particular because of what happened to Garrett Green, and you mentioned it. Nico Marchiol, it looks like, from what we've heard out of the West Virginia camp this week, is likely to be the starter. Garrett Green with a sprained ankle, likely to still be out. Nico played, I thought, certainly above average, maybe a couple of notches above average in the Pitt game, particularly because he had 25% of snaps leading up to that game as the backup. He's been in some big games, some big moments now. He played the most of that Oklahoma State game last year, which admittedly was against a reeling Oklahoma State team. And I know Neil likes to say we came on at the end of the year and won our last 2 games last year against what were pretty terrible teams, at least at that point in the season. But he nonetheless has some game experience. And he has this experience from the Backyard Brawl in front of what was a really fantastic crowd with a lot of pressure on him because he came in when we were down.
He did.
Or it may have still been tied, but he certainly didn't come up in with a big lead. So how will he play? I fully expect him to play better than he did in the Pitt game because he'll now have the week leading up to this to practice, get the vast majority of the snaps in practice. But I think that's going to be a key as well. How is West Virginia's quarterback, who's likely to be Nico Marchiol, look in what will be his first start in a while, certainly this season, where he's had the full week to prepare and knowing that he's going to be the starter.
Yeah, and I like that. I mean, when I look at quarterbacks in this game, it's such a key that I think I'll take my third key point, also being the quarterback. But let's switch sides and let's go to Texas Tech. So the Texas Tech quarterback, he's a transfer from Oregon, a lot of playing time experience, has missed the West Virginia game in the prior 2 seasons and hasn't seemingly impacted the Red Raiders a whole lot. Thus far, he also has the ability to scramble, 137 yards rushing thus far with 2 touchdowns. He also has a QBR of 58.7, which is on the lower end, of course, and a 61.9% completion percentage. So how does Shuck perform in Morgantown on the road? We do know that against the Wyoming Cowboys, game 1 to start the season, Texas Tech ends up losing in Wyoming. I don't even know where Wyoming plays. Actually, now that I say
I
that,
think it's
I'm
in
like,
Laramie. It's
so,
either Cody or Laramie. I want to say Laramie, Wyoming, I think is where the University of Wyoming is located. But
so
I'll say, Jarrett, I'm remembering people say it's a tough place to play. They're a Mountain West team. I remember, if you'll recall, when West Virginia got totally waxed by Missouri, Neil Brown's first year, Missouri going into
I
that
was
game, I
there.
think had lost or played really close at Wyoming. So it's, they for a long time, I don't know that he's still there, but I think they have the coach that used to coach at the University of Montana, I believe, who has a really good FCS level football program. And I think Craig Bowl, is that the coach at the University of Wyoming? So I think
I'm not
they're
sure.
well coached. So, but in any event, they dropped the game they should have won. They were probably double-digit touchdown favorites, I think, in that game.
Yeah, they were two touchdown favorites, and we're going to get a Texas Tech Red Raider team that's coming in as about a 6-point favorite in this one in Morgantown. So 1-2 record, 2-1 Morgantown, or West Virginia record in Morgantown. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out. You don't have the hype. You're going to be on ESPN Plus this week instead of ABC Prime Time. So can the Mountaineers pull it off? 3:30 in Morgantown this Saturday.